In Tennessee, this story is going to be all over the news today and over the weekend. And already, David Marcus, who I like, he's a writer. He writes for Daily Wire and New York Post and other publications. He's been saying the left will pump this up and the right will ignore it. I don't think this should be ignored by anybody. This is an outrageous story, and it's about pushback on out-of-bounds behavior by protesters. In the Tennessee case, those protesters happened to be lawmakers. And what happened in Tennessee was a group of 3 lawmakers. They're calling themselves the Tennessee Three because they want notoriety. 2 black men and a white woman, all Democrats, hijacked the proceedings in the Tennessee State House a day after the mass murder that took place there last week at the hands of a transgender activist. Right, this transgender person went into a school and shot up 3 9-year-olds and killed them, and 3 administrators or workers at the school. The story's been largely buried by the media once they figured out that it was a trans person. And the next day, they started having hearings in Tennessee about what should we do? What do we do? Is it about guns, as the left was claiming? Is it about mental health? Is it about fortifying schools, which was generally the approach taken by the Tennessee lawmakers, which it's a Republican majority, so nobody's surprised. So not getting their way on guns, right? They wanted to make it all about guns. They wanted an assault weapons ban. It's not going to happen. Get out of Tennessee if that's super important to you, because it's not going to happen. It could happen potentially in another state, but not there. They weren't getting their way. And these 2 black men and 1 white woman, Democratic activists who were in the Tennessee State House as elected representatives, hijacked the proceeding and took to the lectern in the middle of the well without being allowed. They were out of order. They violated procedure. And one of them, a Mr. Jones, had hidden a bullhorn under his coat. This is a lawmaker. He's 27 years old. He'd been an activist before they elected him. He'd hidden a bullhorn under his coat, went up to the podium, and here's a bit of what happened.
No action, no peace. 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 No action, no peace.
Talking about protecting the Second Amendment, but we are not saying bill after bill, dropping in the house, we're talking about providing them guns. Instead of stopping the NRA legislation that we
So this is what's happening, right? This is what happened. These lawmakers hijack the proceedings, Dennis, work with the protesters in the balcony, start screaming, nothing can be said, nothing can be done. It's just an expression of anger and ego. Ego, I would submit. The lawmakers are Representative Pearson, a Democrat from Memphis, Representative Jones, who had the bullhorn from Nashville, and then Representative Gloria Johnson, she's the white woman, obviously, a Democrat from Knoxville. Now, here's what happened. They were expelled. The 2 black men were expelled as lawmakers. You can expel somebody who behaves in a huge breach of decorum or commits a crime, et cetera, as the rest of the legislature. They did so. They did not expel the woman, Gloria Johnson. And now today, the narrative is they're racists because they kicked out the black guys, but not the white woman. And this was a, quote, shocking assault on democracy and speech, right? The ones who stood up for decorum, the ones who tried to control the proceeding, shut down the hijackers of the conversation who were out of order, they're the ones who assaulted speech, not the perpetrators. LA Times, I'm quoting with that quote. They went on to say they, meaning the GOP majority, have no right to silence their opponents, Nashville, Memphis, and Knoxville voters. Okay? They have no right to silence them and the people they elect to represent them. Not in a functioning democracy that thrives on speech and debate. And they accuse the Republicans of disenfranchising those 3 representatives, many thousands of voters. So we'll get to the race thing in 1 second. But let's just start with the complete turn of the narrative. Their voters were disenfranchised, not the 7 million Tennessee citizens whose representatives were not able to debate things like fortifying the school with more security or mental health because Bullhorn man thought his one voice was more important.
That's exactly right. When they stop people from speaking at colleges, it is unreported and unknown on the left. And then when we asked for decorum, nobody said he couldn't speak, but you can't bring a bullhorn into your state legislature and start using it and screaming into it, hijacking the proceedings and interacting with a mob that is in the visitors gallery. Had this been other, let us imagine for a moment that pro-life members of the Tennessee legislature had smuggled in a bullhorn and started screaming pro-life messages to a balcony filled with pro-life activists. And then this happened, let us say, in what we call a blue state. And they had been expelled as members for doing that. Do you think the LA Times would have editorialized against it? There is no moral truth. There is no truth on the left. Again, something I've said my whole life because I remember studying it when I studied Pravda, the Soviet communist newspaper. Truth is not a left-wing value. It is a liberal value. It is a conservative value. It is not a left-wing value. And so they will say whatever they can say to win. That is the only question that really plays a role on the left. What should have been done to these people? And as regards the question of race, why didn't they expel the white woman? Well, she missed expulsion by one vote. People should know that. They tried to expel her. She was stripped of committee chairmanships or memberships in the Tennessee legislature. And she did not use the bullhorn. That was the reason that she was not expelled. But whenever possible, they will say racism. But of course, had she been expelled, they just would have said misogyny. So it doesn't matter. They got you coming and going.
Here's the crazy thing. She got up there along with her representatives in arguing against her expulsion and made those same points. She didn't use the bullhorn, the megaphone. She didn't yell. They were distinguishing her behavior. And 7 Republicans crossed party lines to say she doesn't deserve to be expelled. And yes, by one vote, because they needed a certain number to get rid of any of them, she wasn't expelled. After she distinguished her own behavior as being different from the others. So yeah, there is a difference between smuggling in a bullhorn and being the chief ringleader of the people up in the balcony and just being a supporter who stood there and didn't yell, but stood next to the guys and supported them in solidarity. And, you should take it up with her because she pointed out her behavior was different. Now, no, she's out there too saying, it's because I'm white and they're black. Here she is. Again, her name is Representative Gloria Johnson.
Why were those 2 expelled and you weren't?
Well, I think it's pretty clear I'm a 60-year-old white woman, and they are 2 young black men. In listening to the questions and the way they were questioned and the way they were talked to, I was talked down to as a woman, mansplained to, but it was completely different from the questioning that they got.
There you go. Mansplained, talked down to as a woman. She was getting ready to play that card. Let's face it, the truth is she would have loved to have been expelled. She would have said misogyny, and this is just as good. Now we can claim racism and play the victim all over again.
I have pointed out, again, for so many years, the charges of racism are almost always false, like in this case. And that is proof of how little racism actually exists in America. I wrote a column, I write a weekly column I have for 20 years, and about a year ago, I listed more than a dozen race hoaxes on campuses, where if you see racial graffiti, racist graffiti on a college dorm door of a black student, let's say, Generally speaking, you can assume either a black student did it or a white leftist. Usually a black student has done it. Why are there so many race hoaxes? The Jussie Smollett is only the best known. Why are there so many? This, for anyone who cares about truth, is proof of how little racism there is in the United States that you need these hoaxes. Here's a question. Were there any anti-Semitic hoaxes in Germany in the 1930s?
Sure, you can go to Brazil or Colombia and get some crazy stuff done to your face, but why would you do that? Here's a real review from Genucel.com. Claire writes, I absolutely love Genucel. My skin feels so good, tighter, younger, with a more even tone, and I only used it for a week. My advice for everyone, take a before picture. Then there's Jim, who makes another point, writing in, wife loves it. Ever since I purchased it for her, things got much more interesting after dark. Enough said. It's true. Nothing works like Genucel because it is a family recipe for over 20 years, made by a compounding pharmacist in small batches and always safe, cruelty-free, and natural. Right now, go to Genucel.com/MK60 and save over 70% off Genucel's most popular package. That's all their best stuff, including now their ultra retinol and dark spot corrector. Don't wait. Go to Genucel.com/MK60. All orders upgraded to free shipping, and every subscription order includes a complimentary spring spa box with 3 spa essentials also free. Limited time. Visit now. Genucel.com/MK60. That's GENUCEL.com/MK60. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.